now recording. So today is Friday, the 16th of October 2020, and it's daylight saving time in New South Wales, Sydney, where I am, and it's 7 p.m. And this is our first Zoom for RES502 Term 4 2020. Okay. So while folk may be finding their feet, let me just give a little tour of the Moodle page. So, the first stop might be these pair of boots. Katie, would you like to explain why I have a picture of a pair of boots?
My guess would be one of two, so I'll give you both and you can tell me if I'm close. The first could be that we're seeing where we can go and what we can discover and what we can journey. And the second guess would be because they're upside down and buried, it's what's actually hidden beneath what we're seeing. And so how can we actually find out what's under there and how that's happened?
I like your second explanation most. What I like to think of is that that's actually a person and they're buried in a snowdrift. So all you can see is their feet. And I suspect that's how you might feel about action research. That it is so, what is this animal? It's as if I've been in an avalanche and I'm now completely disorientated. I don't know which way is up. I don't know which way is down. It's a huge challenge. So that's why I chose this particular picture to start off this subject. So if you're feeling confused, disorientated, join the party. It's normal. The beginning of our action research is like that. And then as you get into it a little bit, you come out of the snowdrift. You might be up to your waist in snow and you can't exactly go very fast. And it is a bit foggy and you can't see that far ahead, but you can actually see there is a road. So get your eye on the horizon. You know which way up you are. And by the time you finish this subject, you'll all be friends and having a party, and snow will be something of fun rather than pain. So that is my dream for you as you go through this subject, okay? And Yvette, welcome. I see you there in the gloaming. Welcome. So,
sorry, I was late.
No worries. Thank you for coming. Here we go. So that's what the pictures are for. Now, I put on the editing so that I can just scroll down through the page, but unfortunately you can't. You have to get used to what's behind each of those tiles. So that's obviously the subject outline. You should have a look at that. That's the definitive position. This is where we put videos. So the latest one is on top. And the 3 stars means it's definitely worth a look at. The rest, depending on how much time you've got. I will actually be removing some of the older ones, but maybe not just yet. I'll certainly be removing those echoes. Anyway, action research resources. Now, way back when I first came to Alpha Crucis, Jenny Bickmore-Brand was moving down to Melbourne, and I came in to take her place. And in that year, 2010, she got me writing this course. So these 2 PDFs date from then, and even though they're 10 years old, I think they're pretty good. I don't think they've dated that much. So part 1 obviously you've got to go part A, you've got to get into that first. Part B, once you've got some data, you need to analyze it. So that's what that is. So they're absolutely crucial resources for you to get your head into. Again, look for the 3 stars or for the 4 stars if it's that important. Whoa, must be brilliant, that one. Ethics, we do need to talk about ethics. The point is, this is a crazy short term. We need to get you to do a project that doesn't require a full ethics application. I've managed to get everybody to that position in the last few years, but it's absolutely crucial that you don't interview minors. That would be a pain and require an ethics application. So we've got to be creative and work out how we can get evidence from students without interviewing them, like marking their work. That would be fine. So ethics, we've got to talk about that. Now the literature review and conceptual framework. This is a huge part of the front end of RES502. You don't have to invent stuff because other people around the world will have written up articles about the topic you're going to do. Therefore, make sure you dig into what other people have written, and that will spark ideas. The conceptual framework, not everybody gets hold of that. For those people who are visual learners, they might want to do mind maps. Conceptual frameworks may be a great thing for you. It's not a have-to, it's an idea for those people who get so inspired. So the first assessment is the proposal. So it's like a formal, you stand up metaphorically and you present your proposal. So what we're going to have to do over the next couple of weeks is thrash out what that is, and you write it up nicely. It includes a big chunk of literature, which therefore will be incorporated in your final project. So it's not a case of 2,000 words here and 8,000 later on. Actually, there's a huge amount of overlap. And what you do for the research proposal with some modifications goes into your final thing. The ethics statement, notice it's a statement and not an application. It's basically saying, this is how I can justify not having to do an ethics application. So that's what that's about. And then the final project at the end of the term, 6th of December, I believe, yes, 8,000 words, although I'm not going to count you down if you do 7,000. I will be rude to you if you do 10,000. I'll say, why did you give me all this to read? So don't do more than 8 if you can possibly avoid it. Obviously, appendices are beyond that. It's only your formal presentation. So I think I'll shush for a bit and ask you to talk to me about what's on your mind.
Dr. Jim, could you give us some examples of action research topics that students have completed in the past?
Yeah, there are some in here. Trying to find where I've put them. There's one here, Anita Bressin, that was a Master of Teaching Secondary, focusing on differentiated curriculum, but I'll come back to the topic. I would recommend you have a look at these two, and Carolyn Smolik. That was an awful lot about dance, teaching dance from a Christian worldview point of view. Now,
Jim, I might just add that they're located in the ethics tile on the Moodle page, and the ethics resources, just in case you can't find them.
Yes, that's slightly, should I say, exceedingly silly place for me to put them. So thank you, Adam, for that clarification. Yeah, under ethics, yeah. So Carolyn Smolik, she was a primary student. So I would look at these two examples as for the format, for the standard. They're pretty standard headings all the way through. Nearly everybody's got the same. In terms of what you study, we'll spend a fair bit of today talking about that. This one here, Reifler, Cultivating Spiritual Identity, isn't, it's sort of action research, but it's not. And it wasn't done for education, although it was done in a school. It was done under another award. It's longer, much longer than you have to do. But again, it might be worth having a look at that one. So that, yeah, I think, but Katie, to go back to your question, the most important thing I would love you all to go away today knowing or feeling that you were there is, what is action research? That's the, once you've got that in your blood, I think the rest will unfold. What I've got in my diary is a list of your names. And what I'm going to do over the next couple of weeks is I'm going to be scribbling little notes for myself on the ideas that you've got. So because some folk got this Moodle page a tad early, I've already got some ideas for you. And it's a case of sharpening up the title so that you know really where you're going. But meanwhile, you can be just going along with the flow of literature review, sharpening it that way as well.
But how do we know vaguely what to review if we're not sure? Like if we propose multiple things.
Yeah.
Where do you? I would actually like to jump onto. Was it Caitlin's question of, look, could we have 3 examples of a good action research question, so that we've got an idea of an example of what one would look like? But look, do we just start researching everything?
No. So, as I said, the key thing is to get your head into what is action research. So would anybody like to, rather than my voice, would anybody like to attempt their definition off the top of their head? Don't read anything. Their definition of what is action research.
Dr. Jim, I think action research is, what I believe is researching or working as a teacher, working on your strategies, working on your attitude towards teaching, and then improving it. Is that something that's...
I would give you about 87% for that. Pretty good answer. First thing you said, rewind that first phrase you used.
It's research.
Yeah, no. Try again.
It's action research for me is working on your own actions, or researching or thinking about your own.
Yeah. Working on your own teaching style,
yes.
Teaching pedagogy,
strategies,
working on yourself. So when you do research, educational research, you're researching something out there. How do teachers blah 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 do differentiated curriculum? How do teachers cope with bullying? Blah 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 out there. You go to thousands of papers who've been written on those topics. But for action research, the whole thing starts with you. You've got to get, if you've done 522, self-reflective educator, what might come out of that might be your biggest fear, your biggest constant mistake when you're teaching. How come I always fall into that pit. What's the matter with me? I don't see it coming. It always hits me. And therefore, try and articulate what that is. Then do a bit of research on that. And you'll find that other people around the world have done that very same thing. They've also got a fear of that. They've also stumbled on that. Therefore, wow, yeah. And they've not got a research methodology all sorted out. So all I have to do is read their research project. Yay, and watch their videos. And you'll find it isn't welcome, Alex. There's two of you. Have you become twins? No. He's not hearing me, I don't think.
Hi, Jim.
Alex is in Croatia.
Can you hear me? I'm in Slovenia.
Oh, sorry, my apologies. I just committed a major crime, I'm sure.
Something like-
Slovenia.
Sorry. Yeah, I've just raced out of maths and I'm in the car and I've pulled over. Nice to see you. Sorry to interrupt.
That's no worries. Nice to see you. We're just talking about what is action research. And this is given us a pretty fair definition, which you probably didn't hear. And if you can, if I can put you on the spot, Alex, what is action research?
It's an ongoing project to become a better teacher. Ideally, it's ingrained in the classroom. It's got to be something you're passionate about. It's got to be ideally not with kids because of ethical issues. I understand from something you said previously. Yeah, I think passion's probably the most important thing, and ongoing, and getting in good practice for forever, basically. Brilliant.
It's almost like booking in a service for your car. What do we need to get fixed? What are the major items we want the mechanic to sort out? And then we'll do some tests, and then we'll put a different oil in. We'll do a different pressure on the wheels. And, you know, with these combination of ideas, the journey is going to be that much better in the future. And you might not get it the first time. You see, the whole point about this action research project is something that you create a plan and you do it, but it's a trial and error. It would really be sensible to trial something that's going to work, but you'd never know. It's highly unlikely to work 100%. Therefore, you expect to refine it. But the point is, for this project, you're only just doing the first round. You don't have to do round and round and round and round and trial it, and improve it every time. No, all you have to do is set up one round of, yeah, we're going to do it differently now, and see how that goes. And then you write up what it is that you found worked well and what you could still work on in the future.
Thank you.
Now, yeah, was that a hand, Alex? No, you're just shielding the sun from your screen.
I'm just trying to put my phone somewhere so I don't bump it every time I move my hand while I'm talking. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Adam, talk to me about action research. How would you define it?
Yeah, I mean, a bit tough to top Alex's definition there. But for me, I sort of feel like, you know, sort of reflecting on different things in the classroom and the things that I'm struggling with. One of those for me pops out is the kid that refuses to follow instruction. You know, you ask again, and then I tend to try and ignore that student, and then I feel like I'm like a loaded shotgun when I eventually let go.
Now, Alex, that is a brilliant example to bring up, actually, because you could find yourself very easily spending your time thinking about what it is about the kid that makes them do that.
Yeah.
Is it a learning difficulty? What is it? Is it a family upbringing? Is it their siblings? Is it something about them? Whereas action research has to be about you and focusing on your response to that external situation. You know,
Yeah,
how do you guard your heart from clipping him round the ear roll and getting yourself sacked?
yeah. Yeah, so like I'm already starting to think like, well, you know, I've tried this way. What's my next step? What can I try next to try and curve that? Sorry, that.
Yeah. But Adam, what I'm saying is, you don't be drawn into the external issue, and therefore, how do you, on this occasion, deal with that? But try to go to a deeper. What are there other teachers in the school that wouldn't have that issue with this kid? What is it about their style that means that they would never fall into this trap?
Oh.
Maybe. In which case,
But
then you
rather
compare
give-
yourself with them. Sorry, who was that?
Oh, sorry, that was me going. But Jim, there is those kids, at least in the high schools I've been in, who drive everyone absolutely up the wall. And I could name half a dozen of them off the top of my head in just one year group. Every teacher.
I get you. So the question, I think, comes back to my mind, which Alex raised, but it's got to be something you're really passionate about. Heidi, if you would say that managing difficult kids is your most important, biggest hurdle in teaching growth, and you're going to be passionate about that until Christmas. If that's the case, go for it. But if you're not that passionate about it, it's just an annoying side thing, which I wish would go away.
I've done a lot of research and a lot of teaching on it already. I've got a lot of strategies to deal with them because that's been my job for 7 years.
Right. So I think the crucial thing is in these next couple of weeks is to resolve what is the most passionate thing you would like to devise a research project around in your own practice. Can I commend to you Etienne Wenger? He's a French-Swiss researcher. You'll find a lot of his stuff on my Moodles. He talks about communities of practice. Now, I really, really value the idea that you're not alone. You're in a community, and as such, think of the community that's surrounding you as supportive people who want to see the best for you. So they're not antagonistic, pulling you down, white-anting you, speaking behind your back. They're actually, just imagine they want to build you up. Therefore, you go to them, for example, what area do you think I would really crack it if I nailed this? So that's another source of ideas for you to go to teachers in your world that might give you inspiration.
What if you're not currently working with other teachers?
Yeah, I know. I know.
And what if the teachers are actually the ones who've actually done all those things you said they never do?
That's very unfortunate, Heidi.
Yeah, I know.
That's very unfortunate.
Yep. Not all of them, but
I wonder, I don't know if this is appropriate in action research, but just off what Heidi says, I wonder if you were able to, as part of the research, actually connect in with some schools that actually do that really well and interview those teachers and do it across schools, or does it have to be just within the school that you're teaching?
Oh, no. That's a very, Katie, that's a very, hang on, that's a very important thing you raise. Because we've got this term to do it, and it's a really concentrated piece of time. Some people are going to be in schools, some people are not. I'll just tell you now, last term, there was a guy, because of COVID, who couldn't get into his prac school, so he ends up working as a manager in a Coles. And so his research project, he worked out amongst the workers who worked with him, and he got some questionnaires up that they then filled in on his management style. Yeah, it's a bit brief, a bit simplistic, but basically his work in the Coles supermarket was the setting for his action research. So it could be all sorts of places.
Great. No, that's really good. I was just going to say that just to Heidi, the prac that I'm currently in, from memory, you're not in Sydney.
No.
Is that right? No. They have the, I'm working at New Hope School, which is a school for high level special needs. So all of the children in there have really, are all autistic or have really significant behavioural issues. And the whole school has just such a heart towards children with special needs or children that have behavioural difficulties. So I just was wondering if potentially you could connect in with them and talk to them about the different strategies that they use to actually work with that, both within, they've got a mainstream school plus an actual special school that's attached to that as well. Yeah, and they're just the most beautiful community. So I just thought if you were able to do it across, that might be a good place to.
Yeah, but Katie, I would suggest that you're running ahead of yourself. See, that's operational. Let's really focus on finding what your topic is.
Okay.
Once your topic's sorted and refined, then we can talk about where you might do some data collection.
Okay, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think you might be going head over heels a bit there.
Sorry about that.
That's right.
Thank you.
No problem. Look, I'm not going to go through this because of time, but I really would strongly urge you to work through this workbook. You don't really have to read every word, of course. The idea being focusing on what...
Is that part A you're referring to, Jim, or are you referring to something else?
Yeah, that's part A. I'm on page 4 here.
Yep, okay.
So
Jim, we can't see it. We can only see the Moodle screen.
I've got a copy, but yeah.
yeah, I realize that when I change what I'm sharing, I've got to stop and start again. There you go. Yeah, I see some thumbs. Can you see this?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the part A. Don't worry about the fact it says EDU 501, that's an old code. So it's the same course. So in here, just flick through, go through as fast as you can. Skim what you need to read. Focus on what you need to read and not what you don't. And I'm just going to land you on a absolutely crucial point, page 6. And I would really urge you almost to watch the Richard Sagor video 5 times until it soaks into your blood. Pick up his passion. He's actually talking about a whole school community of teachers doing action research which interlinks with one another. So it's a massive cooperation thing. You're obviously not doing that. You're doing an individualized one. But what he writes about action research is brilliant. So this little diagram might help. You're at this stage at the moment, reconnaissance / data collection in the sense of doing research, literature review, but then you'll actually collect some primary data, then you'll analyze it, and then you'll develop a hypothesis or an action plan. That's a pretty classic piece of research from Kurt Lewin, who basically was the father of action research. If you don't know what a proposal is, which I guess you won't, this will help you get an idea of what the proposal is. Your initial literature review, which is what you're doing more or less in the next couple of weeks, which will then develop as you do your big literature review for the whole thing. I highly recommend these people, Christine and Joe from England. Their video is brilliant on action research. Don't forget they're doing a much bigger project. I think it took a year for theirs, so don't get freaked out when you see what they're talking about. Because yours is a really mini version of one. And this language here is a little bit maybe unhelpful, formulating a research question. Yes, it is. Yes, you do have to do that. But you shouldn't really have a problem once you've realized what is it that you want to research about yourself. That shouldn't be too much of a drama. If you've not done a literature review before, or if it's been a long time, then focus in on page 11 on how to do a literature review. Now, conceptual framework, I was just going to physically show you this. This was mine in my PhD. I happen to like the idea. Whether it works for you, it probably doesn't, but it did for me at the time in 2005. So I was looking at a Christian school bottom left here in the 1970s, and what's happened to it over time, and why was it a good one? Why was it a good Christian school? So that is a brainstorming operation. You don't have to do a conceptual framework if you don't want. It might help you. This is going to be crucial, timeline planning. Really crucial, because you've got to put in when various bits are going to have to get done. Supervision is me. Whether you like it or not, I'm the supervisor for every one of you. And you're going to have to work out how best to get my attention and how, I'm in AC roughly Mondays and Thursdays on the phone number that's on the bottom of my email. If you want to talk to me outside of those days, then put it in an email and say, make sure we talk on this such and such a day or evening. I know in the next couple of weeks it's going to be crucial to get hold of me, and I hope and pray I'm not a bottleneck to any one of you. So read what that says about supervision, because I'm it for you. The methodology, I don't want to talk about that today, because that's further down the track. Okay, so I'll stop sharing that. Talk to me. Those people who've got ideas, how would you like to develop your Yvette? I see that hand, and Alex, you might need to mute yourself. Yeah, thanks. There was a fair bit of feedback there. Yvette, go.
It would just help me, that's lots of words and lots of booklets and lots of things. Can you just give me a step-by-step, this is what we're doing? The first thing that we need to do is we need to finalize our topic, or the first thing that we need to do is do our research, and then from that we finalize our topic, and then we do our, can you just give me please?
Step by step.
Yeah.
Now, two things there, Yvette. I would like to, but in reality, it's going to be a bit like the layers of an onion. It's going to be a bit like you can't just do that and not that, and then do that next, and then that next, and then there's got to be it's got to be more organic, I think, if that's the word I'm looking for.
Okay.
So I would say, to give you some dot points where to start, focus in on what area. And let me give you an analogy, if I may. If you're walking along and you're on a very purposeful hike and you've got a stone in your shoe, you know you've got to stop. It's so irritating, but you've got to stop and take the stone out. So what is the stone in your shoe? What is the irritant that you need to get rid of that you know is going to trip you up and it's going to give you a limp if you don't do something about it? It's got to be, you've got to be passionate about this and realistic about it. Some of you might be hard of seeing. You might know there's a problem somewhere, but you might not be able to identify it. So therefore, chat to other people. And it doesn't matter if they're not educationalists, but just get into people's sphere, get them to analyze you, psychoanalyze you, whatever, till you can thrash out what it is that's irritating you. So I think that's step one. What irritates you and what you're passionate about getting rid of or overcoming.
But I take it stupid people do not count as that?
No.
Damn.
Sorry, because the world is full of stupid people, and unfortunately, they're with us forever.
Oh, well, I can hope.
Dr. G.
Yeah.
So can I just ask a quick question? This has just popped into my head as a topic.
You're freezing a bit.
Oh, sorry. Is that better?
Well, no. I wasn't commenting on the temperature of your room.
No, I meant I just moved my computer, so I was just asking if that helped.
No, that's that. No, don't worry about it. Your internet was a bit dodgy, but go ahead.
Cool. So just one of the things that I've noticed with my pracs is that the prac teachers that I've had have set really meaningful work for casual teachers. So when they're not actually on class, there's a really great structure in place, not only for how the teacher identifies each child in the class, but also how they set work during that day. But prior to actually doing these pracs, I'd had a lot of friends that can know that it was just an absolute nightmare for casual teachers. There was no kind of set work. They were basically just babysitting. And so something within my teaching practice that I wanted to do for once I become a full-time teacher is actually, how do I set meaningful tasks when I'm not in the classroom? Would that be something I could start?
I'm not rushing at it because I don't think it's core enough.
Okay.
For you. You see, if I may dig on that one, and I'll come back to you, Yvette, I haven't forgotten you and I haven't finished.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, it's fine. And I'm glad you interrupted. It's given me thinking time as well. The thing is, you're responding there. Your heart is going out to casual teachers. How dare full-time teachers leave casual teachers such a mess to pick up? It's so inconsiderate of them. Now, if you were really dealing with your bitter heart, then maybe that's something that you need to work on. I'm not saying you've got a bitter heart, but I'm just saying that would be a personal issue that needed or could need some work. Whereas the issue of leaving work for casual teachers is arguably a thing out there that teachers in general could research and make some proposals and put some policies in place that would improve life for everybody.
I think it was more around the student. Yeah, more around the students. Like I found the first prac had this beautiful folder and explained all the needs of each individual child in the class. And when the teacher came in, children were really cared for because the casual teacher actually knew what was happening in that classroom, whereas I'd seen it done before really poorly. So
you see, Katie, what you've identified is some practice that has operated that you've really admired.
Yeah.
And it's something you want to take on board.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. And I think you should really do that.
Yeah.
But as for, it's not an issue in you that needs to be addressed.
Yeah,
because
no,
I'm sure you've taken it on board, you'll be passionate about it, and when you're teaching full-time, you will be doing that. You'll be leaving great folders for the casual teacher because it's your heart.
Okay.
Now, Yvette, can I go back to you briefly? So really focusing on what area of need in your teaching style operation you might want to improve. And then when you've identified that, or maybe identified a couple, go and do some initial literature review on it. And you'll find by doing a little bit of literature review, nothing exhaustive, just a cursory look at what's been written. Then you might find, well, that one actually, drifts into insignificance, and I'm not going to be passionate about that, and it's not going to work. Hey, but that one, whoa, that application, whoa, yes. See, I wrote down for you, from our earlier conversation today, self-esteem as a new teacher. Now, I still think, and I haven't read your latest email, I'm sorry, that I think has some legs, if you do. You may not, in which case that's absolutely fine. You've moved on to something else.
No, I'm going to do, I think, self-esteem around differentiated classrooms. So how do you maintain your self-esteem as a teacher when you have students that have additional needs that can never obtain to what the system tells you makes you a successful teacher? No?
I'm not saying no, because I can pick up your passion about this.
Yes.
And that's great.
It can. I think it will refine as we go.
Of course.
I'm aware of everybody else on the Zoom thing, so maybe if you could just finish the list, and then, because that at least is applicable for everybody.
Sure. No worries. So I think you roll this. I use the analogy of an egg, a bird sitting on an egg, and they roll it around, keep it safe, keep it warm, and at some point it will hatch.
If
and
you're
then
lucky, it's actually, sorry.
The light will go on. You think, wow, this is fantastic. But while you're rolling it around and meditating on it, you're doing a little research. Please, once you've got that initial research and you've honed in on what your project might be, then you need to write up your proposal. Research proposal, get that, and there's a format on the Moodle page for that,
So
which
that
includes
no, you go. Which includes
a one-page ethics statement at the end. Now, the ethics statement at the end, you'll think this is ridiculous. I've just said that on page 2, but you've got to put it all in those headings of the one-pager ethics statement, because that page could then be lifted out and presented to the ethics committee as a justification for not going for a full ethics application if I need to do that. So the format of the proposal is pretty standard, but then the last page of it is an ethics statement.
So in that research proposal, we have the literature review is in there, and then the research. So it's the 2,000 word thing you were talking about before.
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
And the format of that proposal's all there on Moodle. Basically, it includes what is the issue, why are you passionate about it, it's all there, a mini literature review, a mini methodology, so you've got a hint at what the methodology might be. Obviously, you haven't done it yet, so you can't give any results, and a hint at what your action plan might look like. So it's really, really concise. And that then, once you've got it approved and you've passed that one, that then morphs into the whole project. So it's not a case of, oh, you've got to do these 2,000 words and then another 8. No, it's one morphs into the other.
So in regards to due dates, is there actual set due dates for this, or this is just kind of as the process goes? Sorry, everybody, please interrupt me.
No.
They're great questions.
Yvette, you're doing brilliant. Don't worry. It's absolutely fine. You're asking questions that other people, I'm sure, are asking. Yes, there are due dates. There is a due date for the proposal on the Moodle. Don't worry about it, because people are going to be at different stages at different times, and it's going to be quite a unique journey. And if you're 2 weeks, 3 weeks late for that proposal, it's not the end of the world. If you're 3 weeks late for the whole thing coming in, 18th of December, it's not the end of the world. I would hope that none of you get stuck that way. My last day is going to be the 18th of December in AC for this year. So don't push it to that limit if you can avoid it.
Okay.
Heidi, I see that hand.
Okay, Jim, I can deal with the proposal. I've got no idea where I'm supposed to start. I've got no idea whether any of my ideas are even vaguely on track or how to get them on track. Or how to even get on track.
Well, Heidi, start writing, dot points.
But writing what?
What areas of your teaching you would like, you feel you could be passionate about. There might be 3 or 4. Put them on an email, send them to me, and I'll respond back.
I think I've done that already on the Moodle. Or do you need different ones?
And have I responded to you?
Yes, you told me I was overthinking it and needed to listen to this, and I'm still no wiser as to where I should be starting. And I sent you an email 2 days ago that I think you need to look at. Yeah, I've got no idea where I should be, even whether I'm,
Okay.
Can I just ask a question? I did write it on Moodle, and you did say that I just needed to be a little bit more specific in my title, which I'm still working on. But for me, the issue that I see in my teaching and the issue that came up in my pracs was that my prac teacher kept telling me, you need to work on your confidence. And it was this confidence thing in me that she was always like, if you were just more confident, your practice would be so much better. And the thing that I guess I'm working on at the moment is working collaboratively with other teachers and asking more questions and not trying to do it all by myself. And so the thing that I want to research is, can experiencing that lack of confidence in my teaching practice help me to engage in more collaborative work with other teachers? And does that help me to build my confidence? I don't know if that is making sense, but that's the idea that I have. So I don't know if that helps anybody else.
I think it does. And Emily, I think that's a great topic. I really do. It's big, therefore you'll need to chip it down and be more precise. what does confidence mean? Because it might end up being something with totally different language, but comes under the heading confidence. So, because that's a bit big, that's another thing. You've really got to have a small stone that you're dealing with, not a rock. I don't believe any of you would be here with a rock in your shoe. I believe all of you are here with a couple of stones in your shoe. But then, for the sake of this project, if you happen to have a bigger stone that is actually going to be too big for this project to deal with in one term, then don't try and chip away at the whole mountain, at the whole rock. Then try and find something a bit more concrete and a bit more manageable. You've got to be realistic with yourself and don't give yourself far too much to do. Going back to you, I'm reflecting a little bit, Heidi, on what you were sharing. Everybody thinks incredibly differently. Some can analyze themselves. Some analyze themselves really well. Some have to be analyzed. Everybody's got such huge variety. So I would encourage you to find whatever mechanism that could be to bounce off others, including me,
So I don't know what I'm looking for.
An area of your teaching that you'd like to improve.
Yes, but when you say that, that is exceptionally non-specific, because Katie, the girl who talked about having the right files, that is an area of teaching. But you said that wasn't an area of teaching because it was practical. No, it was practical. It's because it was something else.
Heidi.
So how do I know? What's the balance? What's the test that tells me I'm on the right track or I'm not on the right? And how important is the word?
You will only get it. You'll only get the tick of. Sadly, you'll only get the tick of approval to go ahead with the project when I say you can, and therefore that's the security you've got. You're going to test. You're going to throw things at me until one sticks. You can also ask others in the group, and they can respond to your posts.
How do I know what's not right with what I've already put through to know where else?
Well, you won't know until you ask, until I can analyze it or others can analyze it.
Okay. Sorry, I'm probably a little bit overwrought tonight.
Katie managed to, she verbalized something and I threw a quick response at her, but I never actually gave it that much thought. I was just reacting quickly as best I could. So don't be too hard on yourself, please, but give yourself a little time and work out what best way to get ideas going. And everybody's different. Nitty.
Dr. Jim, I'm thinking of a topic which I really experienced in both my pracs, my first and second prac, and I'm going to start my third prac, my last one on from Monday. So actually, in my last two prac, I have experienced that I have to work on building a relationship with the students. It may be due to the fact that I'm new in Australia. Maybe I have a different background. It can be any reason. I'm not particularly taking a cultural background as a reason for it, but still, as my mentor has also told me that I need to build a good relationship with all my students so that I can engage them in my teaching. And I think that's the thing which I was missing in my teaching. My like the strategies I was taking, and even the confidence, everything was okay, but she said you need to work on working with students. Like there's a lack of that relationship with the students. So does it work? Or
look, I think the way I'm listening to you, I'm responding very well to that. and what I'm thinking about is it's quite normal for a new teacher to be focused on what they have to teach, and they've got this amount of time, and their confidence, Emily, comes right up to the top there. This is a whole new way of life for most of you, that, wow, I'm in the deep end now. Where's my confidence gone? It's gone. And you want me to have a friendly relationship with these students? It's the last thing you think about. But you probably is something that you should think about up front. I'll tell you, let me just tell you a little story, Nitty. I remember as if it was yesterday starting to teach. I don't know whether you can imagine this. This was in 1975. And I was in front of these kids, high school kids. I don't know what it was, but there were two things that I put into my teaching that I've never forgotten. One, get to bed on time, Jim, so that you're fresh the next morning. Because I found that when I was burning the midnight oil, I was so slow to respond to anything stupid going on in the classroom, the kids would run rings around me. Whereas if I was well rested and I was a lot more alert, I could manage the class so much better. So that's one thing. And to me, that's a practical step that I could put into my early teaching, going to bed early. In other words, don't beat yourself up with preparing your lessons so much that you're exhausted. The second thing I did is, I can remember as if it was yesterday. I would, when I was driving to work, I would listen to the radio. Now, because I taught geography, mostly, I would pick up a news item that was current that day. So I would go into the classroom, and the first thing I would talk about is that idea from the news. It wasn't on the curriculum. I didn't have to teach it. And the kids got used to the idea that this guy is going to talk about something that's relevant, that's current, that's real, that's geographical. And because of that, I was able to work on my relationship with the kids. And some of them, I remember one student, he used to throw a question at me before I'd even walked into the classroom. And yes, and his plan was to get me completely off track and onto something else so that they wouldn't have to do any work. Yeah. So it was a game. So whatever it works for you, Nitty, you've got to come up with some strategy that, whatever it is, it's somebody who's got, maybe in the class, who's got a sense of humor, and pick up on them, and basically, if you can possibly bump into them at recess or something and get to know them a little bit better and get them become an ally. And I'm not saying become a friend, because a lot of teachers can fall flat on their face because they're too friendly, and they're really great at playing basketball with them at recess, but they're useless at controlling the class at 11 o'clock. So don't be friendly, but a friend, but you can be friendly, if you know what I mean. Anyway, so I think that's an area, I've gone on too long, sorry. I think that's an area that you could quite sensibly work on, the building of relationships. Love it. Alex, you're in your office. Come on, let me hear a bit from you.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I had a race home because my battery's going to die on my phone, but I probably broke the law. Sorry about that. But yeah, in terms of mine, I put a couple of notes on the forum about intrinsic motivation, and I am currently teaching. It's something that I'm really passionate about, is building intrinsic motivation in children. drives me insane when teachers give lollies and have star charts and fancy stickers and all this thing, because the kids they feel as though that's the only thing that fuels them. So my driving motivation is to develop children that are more intrinsically motivated, and my ongoing challenge is how to do that and how to kind of crack the shell and get into their brain so that they can be more intrinsically motivated. And that's probably my first one. The second one, I'm in Slovenia, like you said before, and we've got some serious problems with coronavirus over here. So although I've been teaching for a little while, I feel like I'm starting again because we're about to go online, and I'm certainly in the deep end. Even though I did it back in March with our first lockdown, that's another challenge that I'm facing. So those are my two broad topics. I'm just trying to narrow it down into...
Sorry, what was your second one?
To do with online and distant learning, and the challenges, the disconnection with children. I'm just broadly looking at what's most relevant or most pertinent to what I'm
now
where I'm at.
Now, Alex, let me just use that situation, the second one first. No, for no reason, other than the fact something's coming in my head. One of the guys last semester, he had the same challenge. He loved to teach in a tutorial college, primary age kids, but they went online, and he was suddenly forced to turn his relational teaching style into online, and he hated it with a massive passion. And his whole action research project was about how to put himself online. Now, initially I could have said, that's an external problem. It's not your problem. But the problem was his, because he was the one struggling with this new modus operandi. So I don't mind, I'll ask his permission, obviously. I don't mind sending you a copy of his action research. And that you might say, nah, no good. Or you might say, oh, yes, I've got great ideas. I can do something with that.
Okay, thank you.
Now, so Alex, so online, where are you?
That's one of two ideas. I mean, the other intrinsic one, now, I'm probably more passionate about, but it's...
But the intrinsic thing, now, your challenge is how to instill a love of learning in kids, yeah?
100%.
Instead of, I has to because they're being bribed or whatever.
Yeah, my parents make me or whatever it might be.
Yeah, they don't see the value. They don't know the value of this thing.
You said the word, you were talking about listening to the radio, make it relevant. You know, that might be a strategy, let's say, to create that connection. But yeah, look, it's an ongoing strategy, and I really don't like rewards beyond feedback and praise from a verbal sense. And I'm trying to, as I said, work out what's the best methodology to bring out intrinsic motivation in children.
Well, I think that's really fascinating. I really do. Have you done any? Have you had a chance to do any literature review on that yet?
I mean, by coincidence, some of the previous subjects from EDU 401 and 422, I think the last two that I did had a bit on intrinsic motivation, and the educational philosophy that I finished a couple of weeks ago had some snippets of that in there as well. So I've read a little bit with that also. So I guess I have a 1 foot forward already, I guess.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely fair. So the online learning thing, where are you, Yvette? Is that going to be for you?
I don't know that you're going to be able to get me off this self-esteem with a differentiated classroom thing. And I think, because I think even I was talking to someone, he used to be the head of secondary at the school I'm at, and starting next year, Queensland Education is actually judging teachers by their outcomes of their students. It's going to become a whole thing. And so I'm like, okay, well, if you're a teacher and you have students who are at a grade 4 level in a grade 7 classroom being tested at a level that they cognitively cannot do, and then the education system is going to say, hey, you're not succeeding because child XYZ hasn't met their thing. How do you as a teacher not take that? Like, for me, like, that is, you want something that we're interested in and passionate in. Like, I'm passionate about that, but for me, like, the child doesn't even have self-esteem in their learning, because no matter how much you differentiate through the term, their final test cannot be modified enough to their level.
I think that's the so just to jump on for like 30 seconds on just to jump in on that, but I think that's one of the things, particularly with secular education, is that materialism becomes the dominant narrative that shapes the teaching and learning. So therefore, how a child performs on a standardized test becomes something that is actually of greatest importance in how they economically contribute to society. So that's really where the Christian ed comes in, where we actually say, how do we develop the child's unique gifts and abilities in order to serve others in their community?
But it doesn't matter what you do or how well you do that through the term. At the end of the term, they get a bit of paper with a letter on it that,
right,
you know.
So, it's heartbreaking. So it's how do you change the philosophy of education?
Sorry, Dr. Jim.
Katie.
Sorry,
look,
that's my, if you can't, that's my little heart thing.
I'm going to come through this screen if you don't watch me.
Sorry.
Oh, dear. The thing is, Yvette, if the world goes nuts and starts measuring teachers like the way you've just described, what would your attitude be as a teacher? Now, I would say your intrinsic motivation should be, forget what these people are saying. If they want to sack me, let them sack me. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to give my heart and soul on this kid, and this kid's going to grow from A to B, even if it's 3 grades behind him. At least you're going to have the satisfaction of seeing them grow. Intrinsic motivation in what you're doing. Because if you don't, if you don't have that in your being, then the latest policy and the latest this, that, and the other from the government is going to drive you nuts, and you'll be out of teaching in 5 years max.
I don't know. I think probably you and I just need to have another discussion.
Fine, I'm sure we do.
Yeah. But I am an hour behind you. And I have children that I've been away from all week waiting for me to put them to bed. So sorry.
No, you go. Go, bye.
Okay. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
God bless, bye. Oh, by the way, before you go.
Yeah.
Who did that hummingbird?
This is my son's Mother's Day present for me.
Oh, beautiful.
He's 7.
Fantastic. Where is he?
He's upstairs. These
are. Got a handful.
Yeah, well, this is only 2 out of the 4. Thank you. Bye.
God bless. Bye. Oh dear. Sorry, I think I interrupted you, Heidi. Go for it.
I think that as much as you've got the intrinsic motivation, if you're being judged by an external source or even by your colleagues or upper management on, say, whether or not the students you're working with have achieved X, Y, or Z, that's a pretty harsh blow still. Like, I know my mother's a teacher, and she's actually dealing with this with, she's high school mathematics, dealing with these with some of her students. She's like, they're never going to get, if I don't do something like an IEP, they're never going to get anything other than an F on their report or an E on their reports. But I think the idea of how you bounce back after the harshness, or how you deal with the harshness and their self-esteem, is actually, I think there's, as much as there's, yes, it's great that they achieved or they moved on. If you're criticised and had a go at for that, it's still pretty heartbreaking.
I know.
Yeah.
That might be an area. I mean, we're dancing around the same thing in many of our discussions. It's the Emily was going on about her confidence. You're sharing very really about the potential hurt of being unfairly judged. You know, they're all aspects of a similar area, and they could well be the core of an action research project for you. And the word resilience comes to mind. And how do you build steel in your character, even when you don't want to be harsh and brutal? You need to be, you know, caring as a great teacher.
How much can resilience be built? Because what I've read and investigated on resilience, a lot of it is actually external factors that lead to your resilience. And how do you manage it when your resilience, like this year, has been massively eroded? And then you're told, oh, you're not coping, you're obviously not very resilient.
Ah.
And it's like, no, the situation is out of control. It's overwhelmed the current. It's like 522. There's only so much you can actually deal with if we do it in learning support before your jug overflows or your volcano erupts. It's not a lack of resilience. It's, no, there's too much there.
Sure. Sure.
I struggle with the resilience rhetoric. I understand where it's coming from, but I think it often gets pushed too far and without dealing with the underlying factors.
Okay. Adam, haven't heard from you for a long time.
Yeah, so I have a question. I guess each of us are all at different places within our studies and pracs and everything else. I am heading in, I've just completed week 1 of my 4-week major, so 3 weeks to go. I still haven't decided what it is I'm actually doing my research on. And I feel like I'm burning very valuable time because this will soon be written in retrospect. So how do I do this, knowing this is my final prac? I won't be going back into a classroom probably after this for the rest of this year, but I still have to write this research project.
Yeah. Adam, good question. The thing is, and it's jolly hard. It really is. I feel for you. The thing is, don't try and get wound up by that, because, for example, if in 10 days' time you and I agree on a great topic for you, and then the time has gone for you to do any research in the school, you could still do a focus group or survey with some of your teacher friends.
Yeah.
Way up into halfway through November,
Okay.
end of November. So that you don't put yourself under, I've got to get this sorted by the end of next week. No, if it happens, great. And we get a fast track, great. But if not, don't worry.
Okay.
Everybody who started term 2, although crazy, and most people weren't, I can't recall whether any of them were in schools. I don't think any of them were. So they all managed to do their action research project and they all passed.
Okay.
So don't panic. Look, we better be wrapping this up, folks, because some people have got lives to go to. Emily, you're muted. Yeah.
I was just going to say, could we, like, if, say, for example, we're going to do a survey, could we, like, send it out to the people in this class, like, and use each other and help each other in that way? Like, if people don't have access to, you know, schools or other teacher people in their life. I'm pretty lucky because I have a lot of teachers in my life, and I am working in a school at the moment. But, yeah, like, could we use each other? Because I'd be more than happy to fill a survey or to answer questions, like, so.
Sure. Great idea. Thank you, Emily. One of the biggest things that people have used last term when they weren't in schools is they did Zooms and surveys of their previous mentors in previous pracs. and did stuff like that. So basically, the task is to be creative and don't kill yourself in the process. I think we better be wrapping this up. So, and if anyone itching to ask a final comment, we're going to meet again. But the primary thing is get this egg laid and put it into the use forum. And if Jim isn't responding in time, as you perceive it, then write me a one-line email in block capitals saying, Jim, I've sent you this post. Yeah, I need your answer now. Okay, Heidi.
Just one question. At the beginning of part A, there's a description of someone doing analysis on some attendance records. Is that action research or is that not action research?
I would argue.
I can come at.
No, I think that's that example
okay,
there.
That's very confusing because I've gone right. I can get my head around that.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, that was an example of how you can draw very useful educational information from a study of attendance. So I think from the point, if I remember correctly, what I was trying to say there is that anecdotally, somebody might say, "Oh, year 10, their motivation really goes down. It's pathetic, and it's all because they're playing truant." Now, until somebody does some, systematic research of the data, they're just playing with ideas. So that was the point of that that scenario.
But it's not action, so it's not actually proper what we're trying to do. It's just a red herring, isn't it?
No, it's not a red herring, Heidi. You can't say what action research is unless you understand what research is.
Normally, I would say I do understand what research is, but yeah.
Okay. Anyway, anyone else sitting on anything? Okay. We'll be in touch. Watch this space and we'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when.
Okay. Thank you, Jim.
God bless. Bye.
Good night.